Yeah, if there is one guy who inspired me in the last 3 years to the approach of music production, it's definitely Buunshin. And I wanted to recreate this track not because I want to be him, but I was sitting outside listening to my tracks and I was feeling like, man, why are my tracks feeling so empty? Why is there so much missing? And when I listened to I Think I Feel again, I felt like it's so full, the full spectrum, although there is not so much happening. Like you can almost count the elements on one hand, but still it feels like this big party going on. So my approach was not to make a 100% reproduction of the track because I don't have this main sample that holds the track together. So when I started recreating it, I just really had a good day. And I kind of nailed out all of these sounds in one go. I have no idea what struck me on that day, but sometimes you have a good day, you have a bad day. And later I subbed to Buunshin's Patreon and I found out that he has a breakdown video where he goes into depth, like 40 minutes, where he shows how he does everything or most sounds in this track. So if you're a fan of Buunshin, please go there and check that out and subscribe to his Patreon. And I found out that I did this sound kind of a different way, but the solution was the same. So maybe you remember this from school in math when you had the right solution, but your solving path was not the right. This is exactly what happened here. So I kind of found out, or for me at least, I took a square as a base. So this is basically what we have here. It's nothing more than a square with a little bit of a pitch envelope. So what Buunshin did actually, he took a sine wave and used sine shaper like that. And you can see how it closely comes to the same shape, but it's not entirely the same. And you can tell how this bass sound is only holding the fundamental, but for this top sound, we need something that is kind of giving an harmonic. And this is very unusual, or I think very cool also. He used, this is what I found, 4 octaves above, and this is why it screeches so much. And then he used 4 semitones down, so that's actually, 8 up. Very unusual interval, but when you combine these and then you open up the filter, you see how the filter is opening up and allows more of the screech. Now it opens up the most, you see? And that allows this high sound to come through. Yeah, this is exactly what happens in the bass. There is nothing more. And then we have texture. I added this one very, very much later because I found out this track has so much noise in it. It's very interesting how you notice the noise when you listen to this in solo. You're like, this sounds so bad. But when you listen to this in the mix, it doesn't really stick through. Because it kind of mixes up with all the other stuff that is happening, all the other noises kind of. And we're going to delve deeper on that part later. But yeah, the other interesting sound, of course, is, to be honest, the sound I didn't even hear when I listened to the track first, is this downbeat bass. And it's just a very, very simple FM sound that just follows the notes, and you can kind of hear it come through. It's very wide, you can tell. It just helps to emphasize that downbeat. I have no idea why here I didn't leave space, but what's obviously most important that you leave space for this sound to come through. So screw that, Johan. What did you think of that? And yeah, this is that sound. It's very, very simple FM. It's just sine wave as a bass, and again, 2 octaves up, and for semitones up, so a major third. And this FM, we can turn that off, but it's just a tiny bit of FM from B with the filter. And yeah, that's it. And as you can tell, kind of standard procedure I kind of found worked very well is using amp just to give it a little bit more grittiness. Could totally be that he does that somewhere in the FX section. This is the kind of A and B call and response that happens throughout the drop. And this is so funny because we mainly pay attention to that melody. But actually the sound that is underneath, that is happening underneath, is so, it's already such a perfect drop. And this is actually what I love about Buunshin most. He has that very, very nice balance between melodies and bass sound design and going hard. Here is the Reese. You've probably all been waiting for the Reese. I have no idea how I honed this out, but somehow it was a mixture, I think, of what Buunshin said in another tutorial about Reeses, and then I kind of just tried to make this type of FM Reese. It's basically an FM Reese because you can tell the second oscillator is quiet. It doesn't really play, so it doesn't have a tone, but it's detuned very much. And the detuned value, I think, makes this perfect kind of whoop, 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 whoop. When I turn this down, for example. And this is how I kind of found the perfect sweet spot. And what's very, very interesting about this whole sound, you can maybe tell, it doesn't have bass. And this is something I find really interesting, especially for beginner producers, is not every sound has to have bass. It's sometimes cool to have sounds that just peek through the mid-range and give you like this little in your face. And again, of course, an amp. This limiter is totally unnecessary. I could have just boosted by 3 decibels, but who cares? I think it was a kind of, input. This is the type of gain staging stuff. So it makes a kind of difference how loud you go into some plugins. And for this amp, it was, I guess, I wanted to get exactly that little grittiness from the bass. Right? Because this sounds thinner. But this gives you a little bit more of that bass response, and very important to take a little bit out of bass and middle here. Sorry guys if this is all a little bit over the place, but I'm kind of just going with you into this project again. I totally forgot what I was doing here 1 year ago. But yeah, this is a very, very nice little, how do you call it, like third sound, like other response sound that kind of switches between the basses. Like you have this downbeat bass, then the rhythm bass, and then different. Bam! And then you go back in. And I think this shows good songwriting abilities. I know you guys think this is bass music, we don't need songwriting in there, but this is actually what makes good tracks work, is this kind of A, B, where do I place certain sounds, and sounds have this kind of function. And this is exactly what I love so much about his sound design stuff. It's so precise. It follows a certain rule, you could say. And then I don't know why, but I kind of switched up the bass sound here. I don't think it's that. In the B part it becomes a little bit more subtle. Same we will see later in the drums, but I guess I'm just going to go through the lead synth with you first, because that's probably something you find interesting. The lead synth is very unspectacular. It's just these basic notes. And I know that Buunshin 90% uses Serum, but I kind of always like when you use the wavetable from Ableton with the noise preset. I don't know why, but it gives me that Buunshin feeling. So and then for a little bit more clarity in the highs, I put this on top. It almost sounds like a bell. It has these very, very high shimmering qualities, and I like this a lot. Also a very, very good tip, using warp down here to get rid of the fundamental tone, because you don't need that fundamental tone so much. Maybe this doesn't, like, you probably don't hear it that much, but the sound becomes thinner when you use warp, like the pulse width, and yeah, that's just that. And something I totally forgot about, but later in the process I had to add this, and obviously in Serum this is way easier because you have the noise oscillator, but of course, again, we need noise to fill this sound up. This is the sound without noise. Sounds already good, but with the noise. Without. And you can tell the noise just gives this extra, I don't know, it fills up that extra space, I think. And we've all become very used to using OTT to just fill up the blind spots. But this is why I like this approach, and this is why I'm doing this video, because I think this is very interesting, and for some people not so usual to see that noise, even if it sounds weird when you listen to stuff solo, it can really make a difference in the mix. So this is without noise in the mix. And maybe it's a little bit subtle, but for me it kind of fills up the sound and pushes it a little bit more to the front and says like, bam, I'm here, I'm a thick sound, and you don't need EQing, you don't need any more processing, you just add a little bit of fullness. And of course, low pass, yeah. Don't ask me why I used the analog here. I just, yeah, this is my way of using noise. When I just need noise from a synth, I use the noise oscillator from analog. So yeah, some basic processing. Don't like take this at face value. This is just very effective style processing. I just yeah, used some reverb on here, some OTT to, yeah, fill it up. All right, so the second lead synth I think is probably very similar. Yeah. Oh yeah, but it has that quality with the sound. That's just an auto pan in 1/32th rate. That's very, very interesting. But it gives that perfect spin, dynamic boost at one point. And here again, the noise. It sounds almost like illegal. Yeah, it kind of is illegal because I didn't use a low cut. Very sorry. But here again, the same procedure without. Sounds a little bit out of the box, you know? It sounds unfinished without. The funny thing here is, when I was kind of recreating it, I was listening to the original. And you can tell there is a lot of noise happening here. It's almost like static noise. And I was like, where does he apply it? Is it on the bass? Is it on the... And then I thought probably he just put it on the hi-hat like this. But it never sounded right. I tried this so many times. But it just brought the hi-hat up to the front, and I was like, nah, this can't be it. So yeah, I just left this here to show you, but it's definitely important where you apply the noise. Just don't just go out and throw the noise on some sounds. The noise is kind of a spotlight. It shines on the most important element that you want to get out of a mix. So yeah, I think we made the most interesting things. Now, yeah, this sound is kind of a fail, but I'm gonna show it to you anyways because, yeah, I have to be honest to my fails as well. I was just doing this from listening. So what I could tell from this sound here, I love that sound. It has so many Prodigy, noisier kind of qualities. This wow, wow, wow. And I was thinking like, yeah, this can almost only be like bandpass moving up and down and having this kind of almost peak distortion kind of sound. But from the tonality, I could tell that it's two notes. It's almost like when you play two notes very close, like blam, blam, blam. So this is why I honed in two notes always. Yeah, my sound sounds so shit, but I'm actually, to be honest, I'm a little bit proud of this part because it kind of sounds similar. His one has way better reverb. I don't know why I didn't use any reverb on here, but let's just steal real quick the basic ass vanilla Yeah, no, that doesn't fit at all. No, that's bad. That's really bad. No, I'm not a fan of this. Now I know why I didn't put reverb on it, but yeah, let's look at the patch. Even though it's a total fail, I know from Buunshin's Patreon video, I'm gonna show it again. So I'm gonna show just a teeny tiny little bit of his Patreon. I hope he doesn't get mad, but this is the technique that he used. He just put in basic notes and then the reverb filter.
And what is creating most of the movement is this reverb filter with the tube distortion together.
But the reverb filter does this kind of wow, 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 wow. So cool. But yeah, as I said, this is just sound design nitpicking. I don't want to go all too deep into that. Now we come to the actual meat of this whole video, which is, of course, the drums. Yes, I know we all always love our bass sounds and melodies and all that stuff, but the most important part is, of course, what we do in the drums. So, sounds very unspectacular at first sight, but what's happening here is there is so much cool stuff going on here to, in my opinion at least. I actually never tried, because I did this track a year ago, I never tried the stem separation. Let's do that on the fly. It's the same kick and hi-hat relation. And I think this is something as a beginner producer you always run into, is you think, oh yeah, my kick needs to be fat and thick and full of bass and stuff. But in drum and bass, kicks are actually not the main thing. They are there and they have this very clear shape, at least if you wanna like make loud dance music or like functioning club tracks. You have to kind of, I don't want to say obey, but it's very beneficial if you use a kick that has like not a lot of dynamic but has a clear pitch and just boom, comes through. If you want to learn more about that, check out the Noisier Patreon video. It's free on YouTube. It's yeah, very, very insightful. Or I think Fade Black did a similar thing as well. Yeah, this is very much the kick. It's not that interesting, but what is interesting is what sits on top of it. I didn't really hear that when I first heard the track, but did you hear that? There is always an open hat on the downbeat, so kind of this. And when I was looking for an open hat, I was like, it can't be, man. This is so sharp. And do you see this EQ curve? It's like a very, very boosting the highs, but that's because together they become full spectrum. And this is exactly what I mean by now we're getting to the meat of the track. This is where all the full spectrum stuff really, really makes a full picture. This is only the kick drum, or like the downbeat on the one is like bam, it goes like in. And this is so interesting because I don't know, for me kick drums are always like this, but this is not interesting. You know what I mean? It's like very, very slow, but this is high energy. It's called like cha, and you don't really hear that sound, but you definitely experience the sound when you listen to this track. It's like, wow, it opens up that field in the high end. So, even if it's very mono, but I thought it would be stereo. Maybe probably in Buunshin's track, that sounds very stereo up there. Let's see. Yeah, of course. So now I have a stereo head as well. I kind of just use the wider and only put it on the sides so that the mono is still good. And now we have that stereo high glitter sound on top. And of course, the little icing on the cake is adding a little bit of ring mod just to get that feeling. It's not about technical aspects here, it's just about getting that r. You see how this has no friction, and this really adds a little bit of friction. I really like that. So yeah, that's just the kick drum. And now we're going to look at the other sound of the drums. Because, I mean, the most prominent sound is definitely the snare. And that was the sound that cost me the most time. I was kind of ripping it back then, I think. This is my reference. There is one point in the track where it sits alone, and I was looking at it and trying to figure out how do you even do that. And obviously he loves to use digital synth drums. So yeah, this is kind of the beginning is this oscillation, like a sine wave with a high pitch envelope. And then you have this noise afterwards. I sat down with my guys in Discord, so shout out to iFeature and Krang, my friends who are very good sound designers, and they tried to help me work on that pitch envelope. I don't remember where it is here. I think this one is the pitch envelope, isn't it? Yeah, I think the most tedious part was finding the right rate and the right amount of how high it was. But we kind of found it in the end and kind of replicated it. And it's, just a little bit of drive. It's this sound and noise, of course. And that's how you build this kind of very high-pitched snare. And as you can tell, it has that same quality. I tried using a reverb on it just to have a little bit more room, but it seems like I took it off again. Yeah. I mean, normally I would kind of use a reverb on the snare, but here I think the whole mixing trick was that only the synth live in this big real space, but every other sound is dry as hell. So it didn't really fit here to work with a reverb, but what did work, and I kind of did it, here was a little bit of transient shaping, because it really, really has a clear like punch to it, and I love that. I love that kind of quality. Yes, that's the snare drum. And now also the tedious part was figuring out how did he use the white noises. It's actually not that complicated, but they do a lot. If I take them away, it's like the track has no direction. And this is kind of what I took to my production approach as well, is trying to use more noisy heads instead of these metallic ones, because metallic sounds are hard to control, while these noisy sounds are easier to control, especially in the length, but also in the mix. You don't have to cut out any resonances and stuff like that. So to have a head like this, you can do way more in the shaping through length than through taking out resonances, making them quiet and stuff like that. It's just, I think, the length. Yeah, I didn't automate anything other than that. And these won't play in eighths, so bum, 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 bum. That's also something most beginners, I don't want to say get wrong, but they always think drum and bass always has to be 16s, so it has to be fast, but it's actually the combination of both, so that you get the feeling. And then, of course, the most basic thing, we also do that in techno. The Germans do that in techno. 16th note. I chose a little bit of a tambourine sound for that because it was kind of metallic, but Buunshin uses something different. It's not even 16th quite. I can't really put my finger on it. It's like it has a very, very long attack. And I think it is 16th. And I think my 16th notes still have a too clear attack. It has to be more something like that, I believe. Especially the noise is too like down. It's more like that, I think. Yeah. And then obviously, when we go into the B section, you cannot overdo this whole crash thing. So he uses noise here as well to get the same effect, but not so hard. I just used basic noise and rendered it. You can listen here. His ones is louder than mine. Way louder. And it starts offset. It's not like, so we have to do like this and then maybe a little bit louder like this. Yeah. Yes, that sounds right. Thank you all for going on the journey with me. As a little bit of a snack, I have this outro for you. Shit, it needs some reverb. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions, leave them down here. And Buunshin, I hope you're not mad at me for showing so much stuff. Yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.